Welcome to Retro Spectrum, the podcast on a mission to listen to every album by every artist and then talk about it.
This week, we're talking about the one, the only Patsy Cline.
Yeah, we got our honky tonk on this week.
Hell yeah, we did.
Kind of a sad honky tonk, actually. Some of it veers into some kind of depressing territory.
Boot scooting straight into depression.
We cover a lot of ground in this. She is a country western artist, started recording in the late 50s, and then final recordings were in 1963. But I think we covered just about every single song and album that she released. These older artists kind of have stuff spread out all over the place.
I actually don't think Patsy is that depressing. I think her story is super uplifting.
Yeah, I meant some of her music tends towards the not depressing. Depressing is not the right word, but like kind of sad, like a honky tonk sad. You know, like I imagine
totally.
empty
Like
bar at night with a lit cigarette in the ashtray, and one or two drinks too many.
2 cigarettes in an ashtray, even.
Well, yeah, that might be it. So I don't know where I'm getting that imagery from. It's only mentioned in half of the songs. All right, put on your finest Western wear and let's dive in. How you been, buddy?
I can't stop listening and thinking about Patsy Cline. I've been talking about her to everyone I interact with.
I was a little worried, like, man, I'm not gonna have that much, but I started digging in yesterday, and I got a bunch of stuff too. I got thoughts. I'm
like talking to the post office lady, like, did you know Patsy Cline? Blah blah blah. And everyone's like, okay.
that was old for her.
Yeah. Actually, probably not. It was probably. Yeah.
Hey, can we just pretend that was a joke and just laugh at it? And
Yeah.
not figure out how old your postal service worker actually is. Well, we can dive straight in if you want. I think we have more than enough material. But before we do that, you want to catch up a little bit? Anything?
Yeah. Is there anything that we need to talk about?
I went and saw Godspeed last week.
Oh, you did?
Not the musical. Godspeed You, Black Emperor. Not the
Godspell.
musical. Oh, that's Godspell.
Is the name of the musical.
I thought I was making a clever reference.
Hilarious.
No, Godspeed. That's like
the musical theater waters are my turf.
Anyways, I went and saw Godspeed last week.
That.
I'm on my kick of buying tickets and going to shows by myself because honestly, it's pretty great.
Yeah, and wasn't I trying to convince you to go see Marin?
That was the next night. That was the Wednesday.
I would have gone to that with you. And you didn't go, did you?
No, because I went to this Godspeed show on Tuesday.
Yep, I was trying to say do both.
Are you familiar with their work? Have you listened to them?
Probably, but I don't really remember.
They're like purely instrumental, and it's like post-apocalyptic, like really darkly tinged, orchestral, like post-rock stuff. It's great. It's awesome. It's the best like soundtrack to like reading a book or something. Yeah, there's 8 people in the band. There's 3 guitar players.
I say orchestral.
There's 2 dudes playing bass. There's 2 drummers, and there's somebody on violin. She plays violin, and I think occasionally in recordings they have other like string pieces that come in and out, and horns and stuff. That wasn't
2 bass players, you say?
Yeah, one of them like switched off between electric and stand up like periodically throughout the show.
Ooh, sick.
And the drummers, one's really like a percussionist, and the other one's playing on like a normal kit. But they also rotated too. Like one would be on the kit, and the other one would be like banging stuff together to make noises, and then they would switch places, and it was amazing. They also have the other, I think, integral part to this, or integral, if that's how you would like to police my pronunciation. But their like auxiliary member is a projectionist, and she is set up on a stage like across the venue, and with 3 different film projectors. And she had this rack of like film loops that were, connected one into the other. And so she would take those loops and put them on the projector, and they would project. It was like found footage stuff. It was all this black and white, like oil rigs.
She's
or one
live
of them
creating this.
Yes, with the 3 projectors, and then she would like make them bigger or out of focus.
You should convince
or like
me to go with you. That sounds incredible.
Overlap them, and they like I said, their music doesn't have any words to it. It's all just like feeling. And so one was about
Wow.
like, it started with like these icebergs, and it was all these film loops of icebergs. And it was like a big one, and then they were slowly getting smaller. And then there was one that was all about industrial stuff. It was like just like close-ups of gears turning and big, I don't know, like assembly line machines and stuff. And it was like all of these kind of thematically similar clips overlapping with each other and fading in and out and turning on and off. And it was incredible. I loved it.
That sounds
I
fucking
loved
incredible.
every single second of it. But I told you I went by myself, and I sat up in the balcony, and I just had my own little seat, and I was just like, I'm just gonna chill and just absorb this show. I ran into a buddy, and he's like, "Hey, we got a seat. We're setting up in the front row. Where there's a seat next to us. If you want to come hang out." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I go and sit, and it's him and his stepson and his wife. And I sat next to him, like on the right side of all of them. And we're chatting through the show. And I mean, really, it's like sit down and shut up and pay attention. Like it was one of the quietest, like most focused crowds I've ever been
Wow.
in, which was also really cool. Because all their songs are like 15 minutes long. Like they're just huge, long pieces of like, it really is kind of being like at a symphony or something. It's a similar,
That sounds
except,
incredible.
post rock.
Art.
But we're hanging out and sitting there, and through like about 3/4 of the way through the show, I start to hear this like sniffling, and I look over, and his kid is crying. And not just like kind of crying, but like crying. And he's a 12-year-old boy. And so it's not like a baby, you know what I mean? It's not like a child, like a little child that just can't control.
He
And I
was
don't know
moved.
for sure what happened, but I heard them like kind of rustling, and they're talking to each other, and like leaned over like, should we go home? What's going on? And I swear that in between the songs, I heard this boy just go, "It's so sad." And I was like, "Oh, my dude, like, yeah, it is." It like he was having. I assume the way I interpreted it. I haven't talked to
He
my
was having
buddy
an
about it, but
existential
he was having
crisis.
like an emotional reaction. Like he was like, "Oh, this is heavy." Like it is. It's
That's
really.
beautiful.
And yeah, it was. It was really kind of like, man, you get it. Like it. If nothing else, it clicked with that one kid who had this experience that he's going to be like, I remember going to this show, and there was like loops of like seagulls, and it was just, I just lost it, like,
If I was sitting next to him, I would have been crying my
yeah,
fucking eyes
yeah,
out, bro.
yeah.
Oh my god. I probably would have been crying by myself.
You're crying
on my
listening to
own.
the story right now. I don't like to show my
That's so
emotions in front of
beautiful.
people, but it really was. It was like a moment that
That's what art's all about.
yeah. Yeah. So, because I could see even as a jaded adult still getting swept up in it, but just being a kid that like, I cannot process this big of an emotion, like, yeah, it is sad. But doing that they didn't say anything between any of the songs. They didn't provide any context. They didn't like tell you, okay, we're going to play a sad song. You know what I mean? It was just like, it just
Yeah.
is sad. Like it just is sad.
God.
I don't know. Anyways, you should listen to him. The show was awesome. I'm really super glad I went. I was really on the fence about going, and then had a great experience.
I'm so mad that I didn't go.
Yeah. Well, if they're ever around, you should definitely make a point to go see them. The live projectionist was like a thing that I had read about that they did that, but I couldn't
That sounds like something I would like to do, to be that person.
visualize. Yeah, it looked like it would be a super fun, because she had like the canisters of film, and would open those up and pull stuff out, and then had a big row of loops. And I'm sure there's some amount of like the same clips go with the same songs, but it seemed like there was room for interpretation and improvisation in that. And so it was like a really interesting, just an interesting dynamic to a live performance. Plus the music was awesome.
I'm really moved by that story.
I did not expect that reaction from you. I just kind of had a like, right on, dude. Like, you get it.
That could have been baby's first existential meltdown right
really,
there.
Yeah, death is coming for
Like,
us all,
I relate
buddy.
to that. I relate to that super hard, so that's why I'm so emotional about it.
That's my catch up. Sorry, now I feel like I put you in a weird mood to.
Well, you know who else brings you to tears is Patsy fucking Cline.
That's
Her
true.
voice, talk about a voice that'll bring you to fucking tears, man.
Yeah.
It is just beyond words, frankly. And
Well,
the emotion.
let's not even try.
Oh.
If it's beyond words, we're really in trouble. We got about 45 minutes to fill.
I'll just cry for 45 minutes. while pushing play.
Well, do we want to get into? Do we want to get into Patsy? I feel like yesterday. I feel like I finally cracked this nut. I could not. I couldn't figure out what angle to take on it or how to like discuss it. But I feel like yesterday I finally figured it out.
Okay, come at me.
Well, what do you? Let's start off with the experiences. Like how? What is your? I'm sure growing up, I can hear your mom singing Patsy Cline around the house
Oh yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
nonstop.
Yeah, my dad had that greatest hits album that was yellow and green.
Mm-hmm.
And I always just remember that album cover really, really vividly. And I don't know. I've always really, really loved Patsy, and everyone around me does. You know what? Universally, I think everyone loves Patsy Cline.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it, I think if you had an aversion to
Her
old
voice is just
country, but even still, I don't know, you have to respect the quality of her
well,
voice and
she's
of the
not even it's not even all country either.
right.
Like it's blues, it's pop, it's kind of like got a cabaret vibe sometimes.
That was one of the things that surprised me the most about listening to like through all of it is it didn't strike me
As
as
just country. It's not
yeah, as
straightforward.
like just country, which I think was intentional. I think they did that on purpose. I think they tried to make her a crossover
Well,
star, and I think they were
I think
largely
that once they
successful.
heard her talent, they were like, "Well, you can do anything." So,
Yeah,
and it seemed like she was interested in doing a bunch of different stuff.
yeah.
It was just her natural just the way she naturally was, I feel like.
Did you have a like because mine I knew all the main hits, you know what I mean? Uh like all of her big songs, I knew all the words to all those. I've heard all those growing up. Like they're just songs that I am familiar with just because I've heard them 1,000 times. Like I don't think I've ever gone out of my way to like listen to Patsy Cline. I
Really?
lump yeah, not individually. I'd lump her in with Loretta and Dolly Parton and similar artists from the era, but I don't know that
That's
I've ever like
interesting because
zeroed
I don't even
in.
think that they're similar.
Well, that's why I was like I said,
I don't even think they're that similar.
that's why I was kind of surprised when I went through and listened to the deeper stuff with Patsy Cline than it was because Loretta's a lot more country
Mhm.
than most of Patsy Cline stuff. I mean, I think she has some country stuff, but
And all those country women from back then, Patsy was one of the first, and she opened the door for all those chicks, including Loretta. She was Loretta's mentor.
yeah, there was one other one that came up a couple times while I was researching that Dottie West was
Mhm.
one that like who was before her.
But all those women had, like, a high twangy
Yeah.
voice, and Patsy was a contralto, which is, like, the rarest female voice. But on top of being so low, she could also hit those high-ass Mariah Carey dog whistle fake-ass notes, you know? She could do it all.
Yeah.
Her range is fucking mind-blowing. I was hard-pressed to think of someone to compare her range to. The only person I could come up with was Roy Orbison. They have very similar voices. They go real low, they go real high.
And I'm sure they could sing. Yeah, I'm sure they could sing the same songs in the same key too. That she could
Oh,
probably
yeah.
sing as low as he
Oh, yeah.
did normally, and he could sing as high as she did sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Roy can fucking almost hit those dog whistle notes, too.
That's a good comparison. I didn't think of that.
It's literally the only vocal comparison I could come up with. Like, she's better than everybody. She has one of the best voices ever of all time, period.
Strong
And I
statement.
think that's why it's just true. Like, if you look at the fucking technicality of it, it's true. If you look at the artistry and emotion behind it, it's way true.
Yeah.
Like, it's just all of it together. And I think it's really interesting that she died so young. And one other contralto that I can think of is Amy Winehouse, who also died young. And I was thinking about the similarities between the two. They both kind of went hard. They were strong, personalities or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about how, like, so many artists die young. And I was just wondering if, like, maybe they were just too good to keep going, or they just burned so bright they burned out faster, kind of thing. Because those are very impressive. I mean, Patsy's seriously one of the most impressive and influential artists of all time, period. especially in country. So I don't know. The whole thing is just really interesting, and everything surrounding her death is really interesting. Like she had a premonition about it, like knew she was gonna die. So I thought that was cool, and she was totally comfortable with that too. Like literally hours before her death, she said to what's her face, who you just brought up. I'm pretty
Loretta,
sure. No,
Dottie West.
I'm pretty sure she said it to her. Don't worry about me, Haas. When it's my time to go, it's my time. Got on a
Dude,
fucking airplane to her
every
death.
single quote I found from her started with or contained the word Haas. I think
Yeah.
she just ran around calling everybody Haas, and I love it.
Yeah.
I want to
Me
steal
too.
that. Everybody's gonna be Haas from
Me
now on.
too. Dude, every
Everybody.
time, yeah. It made me want to start saying that too. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I know I just jumped all over the place there.
You certainly did. I think you covered it all in a scattershot approach. Do you want to go back to the beginning? Do you want to go back to the roots?
So both my parents listened to her, and I listened to her a lot growing up. And then when I got old enough to have my own car and buy my own CDs, I bought some of her CDs and listened to those, like when I was driving and stuff. I actually bought the CD of the album that we had, the Greatest Hits album, the green and yellow one. And I fucking wore that shit out. And she's one of my go-to karaoke people. Because I don't know if I'm a contralto, but I'm probably close. My voice is pretty low, so and so Patsy's really easy for me to sing, guessing. And I was like, maybe Beyonce. Nope. Maybe this person. Maybe that person. Nope. Nobody compares. Freaking Patsy, man. Who sings Nothing Compares to You? Sinead.
Yes.
She's a contralto too.
Do you want to dig through her career from start to finish? It's a pretty whirlwind adventure. We got about 8 years worth of stuff to talk about.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying about artists who die young. I feel like they're the types that just go really hard and make a lot of themselves really quick. And like I said, I feel like they burn too bright and they burn out or something.
Yeah. Well, I feel like her career. This was what I was talking about, the like how to focus on it. I feel like it's split into two halves. I feel like because she was on two major like recording contracts, and I think that's the easiest way for me to think about it. And I don't know if I listened to everything in the right order or what, because everything that I saw said that she had 3 full lengths that she released when she was alive. And then there were 3 more that were released after she died. But there are also like 27 different compilations where they just took the same songs and then rearranged them and released like greatest hits, or like here's some from this album, here's some from here.
Yeah, different themes. And
so listening to it, I don't know if I heard I found a thing that said she recorded 102 tracks.
Yeah, I was trying to listen to every single one, and I'm pretty sure I did.
I don't know if I got to all of them, but the first. So let's talk about the first half. She was originally signed to this record label called 4-Star in 1954, and that's when she started recording on her own. But it was one of those contracts where like they basically just told her what to record. Like she didn't have a lot of say in what she recorded or a lot of autonomy in it. And that's where she was really leaning into the more like country western kind of rockabilly sound. And everyone that I saw that has any opinion on this has all said that it's not like, it's kind of lower quality. It doesn't really suit her vocal stylings. She did that for 6 years. She was on that label for 6 years and didn't release a full length album, only had singles and B-sides. So it was really hard on streaming services to figure out what those songs were and when they were recorded. And I like to listen to stuff chronologically, but I could not find a way to listen to her 4-Star recordings
like a list
chronologically. I found some CDs on eBay that were like the 4-Star recordings, and it was 80 songs or whatever, which would be cool to own. I wouldn't mind owning those, but I couldn't find anything to like. I think I listened to most of those songs, but I don't know that I got them in actual chronological order, which I feel kind of bummed about, because now I feel like I have this better picture and I want to go back and really hear all of those older ones. So that may be some stuff to seek out. But she recorded I go out walking after midnight. She recorded that for 4-Star first, but it didn't I don't think it took off quite as well. And there was one other one that ranked pretty well for her, but she recorded a ton of music for them, but not all of it ended up doing very well. Did you listen to all of that stuff? Do you know?
I'm guessing that I did because I listened to every single compilation on Spotify. I actually listened to every single album on Spotify. The compilations, the greatest, like, the singles, and the studio albums.
Did you get a lot of repeats on there? I mean, did you hear the same
Yes.
song a bunch of different times?
But once I started getting deep into the compilations, that's when it stopped repeating as much. A bunch of the ones in the middle had a
Uh-huh.
bunch of songs that I hadn't heard ever. And so that was exciting because I've listened to Patsy my whole life, but then to discover new songs. So now I have new ones that I'm really into.
Nice.
Like, I cannot stop listening to her. I'm fucking obsessed.
Yeah.
Like, this has definitely been the one that I just can't stop listening to. Like, the Destiny's Child one was the one before that, and now this is the one that I've
Yeah.
listened to
So
the
we've
most.
we've
Like,
we've got a couple of hits with you, a couple of
yes,
long term.
definitely.
One of the things after that, she signed on to she joined the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville and performed live with them. And I think that was kind of, from what I read, like a lifelong
Dream.
dream of hers. And
Yeah.
I wish there was still, maybe there is, but I wish that I was connected to something like that where it was just like, here's a big thing where all these artists come and they just play some songs and it's kind of a jam session with all these, like, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to get as lucky as you would with the Grand Ole Opry, but like supremely talented people just coming out and having a good time and putting on a show. And the shows are kind of different, kind of like a variety show, with different artists rather than just one show, where the same artist plays for the whole night or whatever.
You're speaking my language.
I think that'd
I
be
love a
super fun.
variety show.
Yeah. I miss
Yeah.
televised variety shows too. I wish there was some
Dude,
variation of the Ed
I
Sullivan Show.
loved that shit. I loved that shit. When I was a kid, I watched the fucking Grand Ole Opry and shit.
Yeah.
And did you watch any Patsy documentaries?
No, I watched a movie, which we're going to talk about in
Okay,
great detail
that's
soon.
exciting because I was curious about it. It's Jessica Lange, right?
Yes.
I thought so. I'm very interested in that. But in all the documentaries, Roy Clark from Hee Haw
Yeah.
was in 2 of them, and that just brought me back to the Hee Haw days, because I fucking watched Hee Haw.
Those should be your pronouns in whatever profiles you make from now on.
He and Ha.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate, frankly.
I know, it's not bad.
That got me good.
I thought of that the other, when I was looking at something and somebody said hee haw. I was like, oh.
You thought of that recently?
Yeah, I
This
thought of that
wasn't on the
yesterday. I've
fly.
been waiting to bust that out on you.
Nailed it. And I
Yeah.
brought it up. Go figure.
Yeah, it's okay.
Set you up good for that one.
Anyways, Roy Clark was doing what?
Oh, fuck. I don't even remember what I was talking about. I was just talking about Hee Haw, I guess. The documentaries were really interesting. Everyone is obsessed with Patsy Cline. Like, every single person who spoke about her in the documentaries was like, there was no one like her, and there never will be, kind of thing. And I mean, I would agree.
Well, she seemed well loved. There were a ton of people that, and I think, and I don't know. I don't know her. You know what I mean? I think some of that may be due to her dying when she was 30, and nobody's going to talk bad about somebody that died too young. But there were a ton of people that talked about how generous she was and how she was kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? Cantankerous. You know what I mean? Like, I think that she would kind
She was
of,
feisty.
yeah, I think she was a little feisty. I think she'd kind of rile people
She
up.
stood up for herself.
Yeah.
And you'd be hard pressed to find a woman from back in the day at that time who could stand up for herself and get what she needed and still be universally fucking loved by everyone. Back in the day, if you were a woman who stood up for anything, everyone fucking hated your guts. Even now, still. Like, so the fact that she stood up for shit and got what she wanted, but also everybody still loved her, even all the men. Like, men are obsessed with her. Most of the documentary is men talking about her, and they're all like just praising her. And there was definitely a few that brought up how sassy she was or whatever.
Yeah.
But she'll fucking put a man in his place, and he still fucking loves her. That's impressive. I mean, goddamn. There was the guy who wrote one of the guys who wrote one of her songs. she got him a bracelet that said like thanks for the hit or something. And then the documentary, he was like a new songwriter at that time and he was all excited like, "Oh, the artists are going to give me presents." And then he all these years later, that what he said, that's the only present I've ever gotten from an artist, and that just
Wow.
goes to show you how special
Yeah.
Patsy Cline was. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "You're goddamn right." That's a great example because she was generous and thoughtful, and a lot of people like I'm pretty sure West or somebody on one of the documentaries was saying, that Patsy just gave her money because she knew that she was struggling and just random shit like that all the time. And she like all of her first money that she ever acquired, she gave to her mom to buy a house. And she grew up like her. Okay, so this is really interesting because according to all things, her dad left, right? Well,
Yeah.
that wasn't even her dad. That was her, like, not her bio dad. That was her mom's husband that
Oh.
had always been her dad, but she had a bio dad that everyone kept a fucking secret apparently. And the daughter, Patsy Cline's half sister, another daughter of this bio dad, recently came out with a book about it, how they had a really good relationship and Patsy would come over and visit them and was always really generous to them too. So Patsy actually had a relationship with her bio dad. But yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting. And I really wanted to know more and find a picture of him and see what he looked like.
That is interesting.
But yeah, so her other dad that married her mom when she was pregnant with Patsy left or whatever. And so Patsy dropped out of school when she was like 15 or 16 and got a job. So I feel like her like street smarts and hustling and like doing that for her family, I feel like that's a part of, maybe built in with her generosity and her hardworking vibe just in general. Like, I feel like when you come up like that at a young age, you're more likely maybe to have or maybe she was just born like that. Who knows? But I related a lot to her struggles and her attitude in general. Like, I wish I was better at the way I talk to people. People, I don't think respect me as much as they would respect her, but I definitely related to her a lot.
How about musically? Do you feel that same connection or like relation to what she sings about and how she sings? And because a lot of her songs are about like heartache and heartbreak and you cheated on me and all that sort of stuff.
Well, and to be fair, the majority of her songs are written by men.
Right.
So, back then, that's just what men wrote about for women to sing about is, you know, being in love with a man and being obsessed with a man, and heartbroken over a man or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, that's what sold back then, too.
Right.
So I think if she had lived longer, that she would have gotten a lot more into writing her own
And there
songs.
were she did write some of her
She
own
did.
stuff too. Which interestingly, she was credited on a few of them under her original name,
Virginia
Virginia
something. Hensley or something?
Hensley. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think if she had lived longer, she would have gotten more into writing her own songs more often, and I think they would have gotten deeper and more interesting.
Yeah.
That's just a guess. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the things, the way I don't know, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it has anything to do with her or if it's like, somebody saw like, oh, she's a little feisty. Maybe we'll give her a little more feisty song or something. But there are a few in there that are pretty feisty. And even Walking After Midnight is a really interesting, like lyrically, just the imagery of a woman walking alone in the dark at night,
Yeah.
that's
Well, and I
that's very
think
interesting
even
and
Crazy
unusual.
being done by Willie Nelson and then redone and kind of like revamped by her is another example of taking a song that is maybe phrased or sounding one way and then kind of twisting it a little bit to make it really more like kind of owning it, even though it wasn't her song necessarily. It
Well, that's what everyone says is every song that she sang became a Patsy Cline song
Yeah.
because her voice is just so goddamn incredible and the way that she sings it, she puts inflection in really interesting places and emotion in interesting places, like little sighs or little like um there's one song. It's She's Got You. That one always gets me because it's like, she's singing about like I've got your picture,
Yeah.
she's got you. I've got your
Yeah.
records, she's got you.
Yeah.
but every like she hits this note and then brings it down really low. I don't know if you noticed. But it's so interesting. And yeah, hearing Willie sing Crazy, it's completely fucking different. And that lyrically is a really interesting one too. Cuz that kind of brings to mind like a fucking mental institution image
Yeah.
for me anyway.
Remind me when we talk about the movie to bring that up to that song
Oh no.
specifically. Dude, I got.
You can talk about the I mean,
Nah, I'm gonna wait to get to it because I want to get through the rest of her recorded stuff so we can kind of like I want to have a legacy conversation. I think after the 4-Star records came out in like 1960, she signed on to Decca Records, like officially. I think Decca put out a bunch of the 4-Star stuff, but she signed with Decca and went to record.
which by the way, 4-Star was fucking the shit out of her money-wise.
That was the other thing. She made like 2%
She like
royalties
wasn't getting
or whatever.
paid at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a bad deal. She didn't sing songs that fit with her very well. She didn't make any money off of it, so it was kind of like she was set free.
What
a
a travesty.
bit. Right?
Like they could have utilized her, but no. And that happens a lot, especially with women.
This is kind of how looking at it for me was the second half. This is the stuff that's a lot more readily accessible from what I could tell. Felt like a lot of the full length stuff came from the Decca recordings. And a lot of the songs that you really recognize as Patsy Cline songs were recorded during this time. Even Walkin' After Midnight was re-recorded and re-released through Decca. So like the first one was an early version of it, but I think the one that got more traction, or the one that we hear now, is the later recording of it. But she took her producer with her that had worked with her on the 4-Star recordings, Owen Bradley. And I always like looking at the production side of things, just to kind of get an idea for how it was in the studio and that sort of stuff. Owen Bradley is like credited with creating the Nashville sound, which when we were listening, or when I was listening to it, I was really thinking like, this doesn't sound like country. It sounds kind of like it has strings in it. It has that kind of like
50s pop,
like Elvis. It really had a lot of Elvis stuff in it, that really kind of pop music with mixed in with some like country elements, but it was really kind of a mesh of those two things. And that was Owen Bradley. That was his thing, was making it like country music, but also pop music. And I went kind of down his list of people that he worked with, and it's all Roger Miller, Waylon Jennings, all these like classic country artists that kind of perfected this sound. He had a hand in doing that. And I think that Patsy Cline was one of the first people that really helped solidify what that sound was, and really make it its own kind of sub genre within country music, to where it wasn't just like Appalachian banjos and bluegrassy stuff. Yeah.
Twangy shit, which she does have some twangy songs. There's with honky tonk in the title.
Yeah. But I think that's the earlier stuff. I think most of the stuff that has like honky tonk or rootin' tootin' and stuff like that, like I think that was the earlier rockabilly, which I still enjoy. Stuff. It's good, but it's not the same. This is where
when it starts getting more orchestral, it's better.
This is where it really, I think, takes off for her. I think this is.
And they also started having her wear more like evening gowns, cocktail dresses, and less of the Western fringy shit. And yeah, and it's cool that they weren't trying to pigeonhole her too. Like they let her do a few different things.
So I Fall to Pieces was her first song that went to number 1 on the.
I think that's the one that the guy wrote, that
country western charts that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and I believe she helped write that.
But that was 1960, and then she died in 1963, so that's only 3 years. And really that was like, it was whatever. She was doing okay, and then was really on this upward popularity and artistic trajectory.
Oh yeah, they gave her a big chunk of money. She bought a big house. She apparently decorated every single room exactly how she wanted. And had
like she finally made it
all the time. Yes, exactly. So at least she went out at her peak, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, I don't know. She probably would have preferred.
She was comfortable with death. When it's her time, it's her time. She said that. And there was another quote where, because she had a really bad car wreck.
Yeah, let's talk about that car wreck. It was in 61. It was right. I Fall to Pieces hit number 1 while she was in the hospital recovering from her car wreck.
It about chopped her head off.
Yeah, and it killed 3 people in the other car. Apparently, it was their
fault.
Yeah, they were passing somebody and then like smashed into her head on. Her and her brother were in the car. I think the people in the oncoming car died. I think she and her brother both survived, but it cut her face all up. She had to get plastic surgery and
Yeah, and apparently she had some other brush with death too. And so at one point she was saying goodbye to someone and they said, "Be careful." And she said something like, "Haas, I've already had two, you know, near
I'll,
experiences.
I'll die
The
when I
third
feel
one will
like it,
either be a
Huss.
charm or kill me," is what she said.
Well, turns out. Did you listen to the live at the Cimarron album?
I don't know. Yeah,
It,
I think so.
it's a live album. It was recorded at the Cimarron Club in Tulsa.
Oh, yeah.
And it was her
Yeah.
first performance after being in the hospital.
Oh, cool.
Because there's a couple of tracks where she stops and talks. You know, there's like an intermission in the middle of it, and she comes back and she's like, "Hey, I don't know if you guys heard, but I was in this accident." And that was in June. Like, it was only 6 weeks after she got in the wreck that she was out
She's
back
not fucking
performing
around.
again. Yeah.
She was go, go, go.
Well, and it
the
was
whole
also that
time.
like I just got number one. Like, I need to be out there touring and trying to build on this success. But
That's how she was with her kids too. She would come home, have a baby, stay for a month, and then peace the fuck out.
yeah, go back on
Yeah.
the road.
Which is unheard of back then.
Right.
And she also wore pants a lot, which a lot of people commented on in the documentary being really unusual back then. Is
Of
she
her wearing
showed up
pants.
in pants. She was a fucking baddie hoss.
But I thought that one was cool. It was nice to hear her do the little talking in between songs and kind of,
Yeah.
you know, doing a little bit of crowd work and stuff. But
And she was rather charming.
yeah, and I thought it was interesting that it was to have that one, the first performance after her wreck, be the one that is like recorded and released as a live album. I thought was interesting too.
Yeah, that is. You'd think they'd give her a minute.
Which didn't get. I mean, it wasn't like released then. It didn't get released until like the 90s. I think they found it and put it together for a release.
I wonder how many recordings are out there of artists that are just so iconic like this that just no one's ever heard, you know?
Like live albums and live recordings
Just
and stuff.
anything. Yeah, it'd be really
Yeah,
interesting.
demos and all that stuff.
And you'd think with the internet that people would just be putting anything they had on the internet, but
Yeah.
I guess a lot of shit's locked in vaults of old people that don't fucking give a
and
shit
a
or
stack of stuff that who knows if it's just on like a blank tape somewhere, who knows what's on it. And then once you find it, it's like, how do I even say what this is, you know?
Right.
But if you look at like Dylan has a ton of bootleg and like demo recordings and all that stuff that gets released, I mean, he has a whole other series of stuff, just random stuff they recorded that is.
I wonder if there are bands now that are going to be like the next world-changing thing that people are going to shows and just recording on their phones, and then, you know, in 30 years, if the world even still exists then, somebody will dig up some old shitty cell phone video of whoever it is.
I don't think the world exists and it's not as monolithic now. I don't think you'll ever have artists be as big as they were in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, where it was like, this is the.
Do you think that has to do with technology?
Artist. Oh yeah, definitely. I think it does.
I think that's a big part of it. But I also think her voice is something very, very special and rare.
Yeah.
So I think that's another part of it, is
like it was destined to be.
Yeah, and who knows
famous.
If there's another voice like that anywhere. Right. Like, where are they? It's just so rare to come across someone that sounds so crystal clear like that. Like I said, even of musicians back then, I still can't think of a comparable person other than Roy Orbison.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Chris Isaak, maybe. Because
Chris Isaac's not in the same.
Chris Isaac's like the new brand of Roy.
Right. Yeah. No.
If you listen to him, his quality, range is but incredible.
Not at the same timeline. Like Roy Orbison,
right.
50s, 60s. Chris Isaak, 80s, 90s. So when I listened to this, I listened to all 3 full lengths, but then I went to the record store yesterday and I was like, I'm going to pick up some Patsy Cline on there. I'm going to go see what they have. So I went and they have a box set that's all of the Decca recordings from 1960 to 1963. It's 51 songs, just straight. And I think it's released chronologically too, in the order that she did the sessions. And so I listened to all that, and then I listened to some live stuff, and then I listened
Isn't
to
it so good
stuff. And then I got that yesterday, and I just sat on the couch for like 3 hours and just listened to it from start to finish.
Nice.
Again. So I've hit, I don't know. She released 102 songs. I've listened to at least 102 songs. A lot of those are repeats, and I'm sure I'm missing some. Like, I don't think I actually completed everything that she released, but it is really nice having those all in one chronological release that I feel like I actually have the songs, you know.
Yeah.
And their quality throughout, there's no drop off in quality or any of that stuff. It never feels like a cash in or the
Well, and the thing about her is she was just relentless in the studio.
yeah.
She would not stop. She would record the same song all day long a million times and still not feel like it was good enough. And everyone's telling her every single one is good enough.
Yeah.
Like the first one was good enough
Yeah.
because she's so good.
Well, you want to talk about the plane crash and then go into Legacy? I feel like that's a good
Yeah, so I'm a little bit pissed, a little bit, only a
at.
little bit about the plane crash
Oh.
because so many people told them not to fly.
And it wasn't, you think like, oh, everybody was just dying in plane crashes. There's so many artists that die in plane crashes. Well, if you look at it, it was her manager that was flying a little prop plane. You know, like they weren't on a.
So the guy that was flying killed Patsy Cline. In my eyes, this man killed Patsy Cline.
Yes.
Because
Start at the beginning.
well, so she was playing a benefit show in like what, Colorado or
Kansas
some
City.
shit?
Which
Kansas
is the
City.
other annoying thing is it was between Kansas City and Nashville, which is like
Not that far.
not that far.
Yeah, exactly. And so she played a benefit, which of course she's playing a fucking benefit for free, I'm sure, and like killing it. And apparently she was dressed all in white and looked like a goddamn angel and sounded like an angel. And multiple people told them not to fucking go. And there were multiple other ways for them to get home. Other people were driving, other people were doing this and that. And what, 3 people? 2 men and her? Was that all that was in
3 men in
yeah.
her.
Oh, okay.
There were 4.
3 men in her. And one of them, I knew one of the men in there said that he was going with this guy because he trusted him, the pilot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it just makes me wonder what the pilot was saying. Like, was he being all cocky? Was he just a cocky man? And that's why all these fucking people died, you know?
According to the movie, it was her manager. The same guy that played her manager was the pilot at the plane crash in the movie, but we'll get to that. So it was bad weather. It was fog. And so their planes got canceled. And so they had to wait a night, right? And then when they were traveling, they had to land once to refuel, which should tell you how small the plane they were on was. And when they stopped to refuel, they were like, hey, there's
the
bad
guy
weather.
at that airport was like, don't go.
Yeah, there's bad weather. Like, you shouldn't fly in this. And he was like, no, we're almost there. It was something to the effect of like, we made it this far. Let's just go the rest of the way or something. And it's like, yeah, you made it this far. Like, why don't we just call that good for now, you know? But so he kind of did go like, I got this, you know what I mean? And then flew into a bunch of bad weather. And yeah, there's like a instrument flight or whatever where you can't see when you're flying and you have to just rely on your instruments. And the thing that I read said that he didn't have any experience with that and pretty much just flew them straight into the ground because he didn't know what was going on. So they, the plane never landed. They put out search parties, all that stuff. Apparently Roger Miller was one of the first people to go to the crash site and see where the plane was crashed. And
was he the one that heard it on the radio?
Maybe. I don't know.
Her husband heard it on the radio too. That's how he found out
that she had crashed.
Yeah, they didn't even call a motherfucker. He heard it on the goddamn radio. How fucked up is that?
Yeah, it was the 60s. You didn't have cell phones.
They had how'd the radio know? Somebody called somebody. Somebody be calling somebody. Like, what the fuck? The pilot was named Randy Hughes.
Yeah, that was her manager.
Really?
Yeah.
You think your manager can fly you on a fucking airplane? Think again.
That's why people were dying in airplane crashes, because they just were like, yeah, I'll hop in here with Randy. He can get us there. Yeah. I was like, I don't know. I think we're a little more strict about that these days. But people apparently like looted the crash site. But some of the stuff got returned. But they were saying her money, like her fee she didn't play for free, because they were talking about how the money that she got paid to perform was never recovered. So I guess there were people getting into the crash site and taking stuff from it. Some of the stuff
she did get paid?
Yeah. Some of the stuff being her costumes and the fee that she got for playing.
Yeah, looters went out and took a bunch of shit, all of her shit. Like, and a lot of it got sent to like museums and shit later on. Like, I know one of the things was her watch that was stopped on a certain time.
Yeah, so they knew what time she crashed.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah,
how does a watch stop like that?
I think that's
just slamming it into the ground.
Maybe. So she was 30 years old when she died?
Yep. It sort of makes you feel like a loser, doesn't it?
Me? No. I feel great. I feel great with my
Every time I'm
accomplishments.
like, "Oh, this person died at 27, 27, 30." I'm like, "God damn it, I'm
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
37 and I haven't done shit."
Yeah. A couple of things that I thought were interesting. We were talking about how much of a trailblazer she was for a female artist. She was the first female solo artist inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame,
Mhm.
and also the first female country artist to headline a string of shows in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah, she's the first woman with a Vegas show.
Yeah, so that like I think that helps me at least get a sense of how popular she actually was. Because you hear number
Oh,
one on the
yeah.
radio or whatever, but it's like to be the first person to have a string of shows in Las Vegas. That speaks to if
She was a bad
you're
bitch.
pulling fans.
She was not fucking around. She had a goal and she accomplished it. She wanted to be a singer. She became a singer.
Her greatest hits album, probably the one that you were talking about, the one with the green and yellow on it, is the
Mhm.
longest charting album for a female artist ever. It charted from like 1965 to like 1985 or something.
Wow.
So I think her popularity remained even after she died. I think she left a big long legacy. I mean, clearly it still has written country standards, like when you think classic country, the songs that she wrote are definitely included, or that she performed are definitely included in that conversation.
Absolutely.
Did you see that she credited her vocal range and like her voice to a throat infection when she was younger?
Yes. I was going to bring that up. She had that throat infection, and after that, her voice was just so much better, apparently.
Yeah, or like richer or whatever, which I could see like if they're
Which is another thing that points to fate.
well, sure. I mean, if you want to.
Not that I'm that kind of guy, but I mean, if anyone, the stars fucking aligned for Patsy. And back to what you're saying about the country thing. Back in the day, like in the 90s or whatever, and I hated country, right? But if anyone ever asked if I like country, I'd say, "Well, I like Patsy Cline." And that's my go-to answer to, "Do you like country?" I
Yeah.
like old country. I like Patsy Cline, I like Willie, Waylon and the boys.
Yeah. Johnny Cash. So there were like periodic things that happened that brought Patsy Cline back into the national conversation. One of which was the movie Coal Miner's Daughter, which is the story of Loretta Lynn. And Loretta and Patsy Cline were friends and kind of, I think Patsy was a little bit
She was her
older.
mentor.
Yeah, and it was her mentor.
Yeah,
And
Patsy was Loretta's mentor.
yes. And so in the movie, the character Patsy Cline is in Coal Miner's Daughter, and that was I won the Academy Award for Best Picture or something. Like is well received, very popular film, and it boosted the sales of Patsy Cline. There's a Loretta and Patsy album where they both have songs on it or whatever, and it's again
Mhm.
another example of them repackaging Patsy Cline songs and like
Yes, and I'm pretty sure before that, Loretta put together some kind of Patsy Cline collection.
yeah.
So that was another time that it got re-brought up.
It came out in the early 80s, maybe 1980. So it kind of like brought Patsy Cline back into popular culture. And so they decided to do another movie just about Patsy Cline this time. It's called Sweet Dreams. And it has Jessica Lange as Patsy Cline, and Ed Harris plays her second husband. We didn't really talk about her personal life that much. The first husband she was married to is where she got the name Klein from. It was somebody Klein. But her second husband was the one that she was married to when she died. And his name was
Charlie Day.
Charlie Dick. Charlie Day is the guy
Charlie
from
Dick. Got it.
It's Always Sunny.
Oh, God.
That's Charlie Day. And imagining the two of them being married is.
There was a guy in the documentary that kept saying what sounded like Charlie Day, and that's why that stuck in my head.
No, Charlie Dick, which is
Yeah.
a punchline in the movie. And so they apparently had a tumultuous relationship. They were both heavy drinkers and known to fight publicly and behind closed doors. And I think there were some police reports and, domestic abuse and that sort of thing. So this movie is
Interesting.
complete.
I'm wondering if that's glamorized or, like, exaggerated for this movie because
Well,
I read and heard people talk about them being, like, partying hard and
yeah,
living fast, and they did argue and stuff, but I
yeah.
didn't hear about domestic violence or anything extreme like that.
I don't remember. I don't remember if it was corroborated.
I know for sure the day that she was pregnant, she was pregnant with her son, her second kid. The day that that kid was born, her husband came home at 6 a.m. because he was out partying all night, and she was trying to wake him up like an hour later, saying, "Take me to the hospital. I'm giving birth." And he thought she was just fucking around because he stayed out all night and like she was pissed or
Yeah.
something. But then he woke up like an hour later and everybody was gone. And she was at the hospital having her fucking baby without him because he wouldn't get his stupid ass up. I will say both men that Patsy Cline got with, I don't think neither of them deserved her, but
Yeah.
and she kind of gives me lesbian vibes too, just saying. I think she could have had a really good relationship with a woman if she would have lived a little longer.
Maybe she did. We don't know what happened on the road.
I know, and I had wondered that. There were a couple women that were talking about her in a very familiar way that
Yeah.
made me wonder if she had anything with them.
But this movie, basically, that's the only thing that the movie is about, is their relationship. Ed Harris, her
Ugh,
second
I hate
husband,
when they do
has
that.
probably as much screen time as Patsy Cline does.
That's when you know it's bullshit.
There are more scenes, or at least a similar amount of scenes, of Patsy Cline cooking some random dinner in the kitchen as there
wasn't
are
fucking
of
doing
her
that.
performing on stage.
Whatever.
And all of her performances are like at the county fair and like in some dive bar to like 8 people or whatever. And it just really takes like this larger than life feisty character who, you know, there are a million stories that people have about, you know, things they did while they were on tour, or like actual interesting, thoughtful, you know, unique stories, and none of that's in there. It's all just about how she was a battered housewife,
That's
and
so
her and
fucking
her
annoying.
mama. Dude, it was garbage. I hated that.
Isn't that basically what they just did to Marilyn Monroe in that new?
I think so. I probably won't watch that, and
That's
I
the
wouldn't
shit
have
I've heard
watched this
about it.
movie if it wasn't for us doing
Right.
this podcast. But it just happened to be on a streaming service and available, and I watched it, and the whole time was just like, it's also directed by a woman. Like, it feels like the story of her
Fuck.
filtered through her second husband, which is like, why do we care about this guy? I don't mind that being part of the story. I do think it is part of her story, but it was
Well,
like,
and he's in the documentary, all the documentaries, but none of that gets brought up.
well, he probably isn't super proud of it, but it was like he
Well,
had
he was
more
the
of
one that
a
brought up the pregnant story. He told that story.
he had more of a character arc than she did, and it's
God
supposed to
damn
be
it.
a movie about her. It was very, she
Who
was like
wrote it?
a secondary character in her own biopic, and it
What a
was
travesty.
yeah, it was horrible. It's just a like a bad
So what
Lifetime
you're saying
movie.
is we need to make a new Patsy Cline biopic.
What she needs is like a Walk the Line. But that's what I kept thinking the whole time, is like, this needs to be more like the Johnny Cash Walk the Line, where it's like that talks
Mhm.
about his personal issues and that sort of thing too, but it's like he is the main character of it. She needs a biopic where she is the main character, where it's not
Yeah,
some
no shit.
like tear
Jesus.
jerkery. I don't know. It was awful. It was awful. It was
Well, I'm
an
glad I
awful
didn't waste
movie.
my fucking time then.
She got nominated. Jessica Lange got nominated for an Academy Award for Best
Of
Actress
course.
for it, and they all do real thick Southern accents and all. And it's like, man,
And
this
she
feels a little
loves
put
doing those
on.
accents.
But then I went and listened to those live albums where Patsy's actually talking, and I was like, no, it's actually pretty close to how she really sounded. But yeah, don't watch Sweet Dreams. It's a garbage movie.
No,
It really is just like, they could have, if they didn't say this was about Patsy Cline, it just could have been about any random woman that likes to sing and drink. You know,
Oh
like
my
there
God.
wasn't
Could have been
anything
about my
unique
mom.
to Patsy Cline's story.
Which is like one of the most unique stories.
I know.
Like,
Dude,
that's so frustrating.
the plane crash scene is that's pretty funny. Like,
Oh God.
in that movie, it's like, oh, it's cloudy, the engine won't start, everybody's freaking out, and then the engine starts, and like, oh, we're saved, and then they start flying, and then the clouds part, and there's a mountain, and they're like, oh, a mountain, and then it just cuts to this plane driving into the mountain in this big fireball, like
Oh
like
my
that, like quick
God.
cut. And then it cuts to Ed Harris and him being sad about it and dancing in the
Oh
living room.
my
It's like, yeah,
God.
Patsy Cline died, but how did her husband feel about
Right,
it? Like,
right.
everything is framed that way. Like,
The documentaries do way better. You should watch them. They're worth it. Because all the documentaries are is a bunch of different big people in country just talking about how incredible she was, including her husband.
I need to go back and do that, because that was the last thing that I watched, and it was like, I don't know. I woke up still pissed off about it
That's
today.
the
I watched
wrong
it last
color.
night and I
Yeah,
was just
fuck
like, God,
that
that's a stupid movie.
bullshit. It's so upsetting when they do that to women.
So Patsy Cline, seal of approval.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah. I kind of feel like doing a ranking after we've done our season 1 run of these
Oh,
and kind of seeing who we liked the most and where we would
that'd
put
be
them in the
easy.
ranking. And I think the hits are clearly hits for a reason. I think all the popular songs are, you should definitely be familiar with them. But it's also, I liked going down the rabbit hole on the B-sides and lesser known stuff too. It's very good, like drinking coffee on a Sunday morning music.
It's good all the time.
Yeah.
I literally can't stop listening to it. I've listened to it like all day long ever since I started.
Well, and there's just enough of it that you could listen to any of it and not get burnout. You know, like when we do the 300 songs, it's like that by the end of it you're like, I never want to hear this again. But with her, I think that there's just the right amount of music that you could just kind of have it on a loop or revisit it without it getting kind of burnout or without it becoming too much. And it's all consistent. I mean, like I said, the Decca recordings from beginning to end are very,
So good.
production quality is very consistent. The vocal quality, of course, is amazing. And like
Of course.
you can pick any era, especially of those the latter half of her career. You can pick any era, any of those songs, and they'll hold up next to each other. There's no like, yeah, the first album's a lot better than the other one. It's like, no, they're all good.
I thought her third studio album was a little bit darker than the first two.
I wonder if it feels that way though in retrospect, thinking, she died.
I
That one was
wasn't
coming
thinking
out.
about that when I listened to it because I didn't really know all the details yet. Because I didn't watch the documentaries and shit until after I listened to everything.
I think all of her stuff is pretty dark on air. Maybe not
I
dark, but
agree.
like,
Well, she has like this darkness about her, and
yeah,
I think that's why I relate to her so much and why I like her so much is she has this sorrow.
yeah,
I mean,
and
inside of her.
you can feel it.
Yes, and her being so like I'm not going to say willing, but like comfortable with death to me also speaks to that because I feel the same fucking way, man. I'm not scared to die, and I don't think she was either. Which is nice.
Don't get on any tiny airplanes anytime soon. If a guy named Randy is flying it, just take the next one.
Noted. But yeah, I thought her third album was a little bit darker than the first two for some reason. What did I ask you? What was your favorite?
I see. I listen to it in such a weird way that I don't know that I have a favorite like album or whatever. Like the only way that I can make sense of it is the first half, the 4-star recordings that are the country rockabilly ones, and the second half, the Decca recordings that are a lot more of the Nashville pop sound. I like that stuff a lot more. I like the Decca stuff a lot more. It feels unique to her. The other stuff just kind of feels like it's country music with female vocalists. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like quite as much of a statement.
Well, and maybe when she was, first starting out, she was just maybe not as established with her own sound.
Well, and it's that autonomy. I think she signed that contract, and it was you're going to do what we tell you to do, and
Right.
that's your only option. That was your only choice.
And she does what she fucking wants.
I honestly think you could, if there was a random like box with all of her albums, comps, and everything in it, you could pick a random one and put that in, and you'd be more than pleased with the result.
Do you have any favorite songs though?
Like I said, I like all the hits just because those are the most like comfortable and familiar to me. The 3 cigarettes and an ashtray, I remember that one being pretty funny.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You've Got Him. Is that what it is?
She's Got You.
She's Got You. Yeah, that's a good one too. I like that like story. This is painting a picture of a situation. I like that.
There's I got a feeling cuz Lovesick Blues.
The blue, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was always one of my favorites my whole life. I would love singing that in the car. And I think it's Hank Williams does that too.
Probably. I think Crazy is a great song. Oh, in the movie Crazy. So the movie is all Patsy Cline's songs, like her recordings. And Jessica Lange is she's lip syncing when she's playing. And she does a fine job. Whatever. You can clearly tell that she's not actually singing these notes that are coming through. But they play the song Crazy like 8 times over the course of the movie. And so it's like, yeah, she's just a crazy lady. You know what I mean? Like she's off her rocker a little bit. She's just kind of crazy. And it's not in the sense that the song is saying that. It's in the sense that like she's just a crazy woman.
That the writer is saying that.
Yeah,
The
I'm
writer
telling
of
you,
this fucking
it did
movie.
everything to her that I feel like she didn't do to herself in her own life. You know, like I feel like she carved her own path.
Yeah,
And this
by
just
all accounts, she was the opposite of crazy.
yes. Well, on the opposite of like the housewifey, you know, like I don't know. It was just
She did what she wanted to fucking do.
yeah.
She wasn't just okay. So what's that movie called?
Sweet Dreams, which is also I think the last song she recorded for Decca.
Yes, which is very interesting. That sounds like a death song, doesn't it? No, it is a man who directed this.
What?
Yeah, Carell Riz or something. Yeah, and I'm assuming a man wrote it as well. Yes, a guy named Robert wrote it. So, yeah.
Oh, I think I just read that as Carol
No,
and thought
a
it
dude,
was
straight up.
okay. Well, that explains so much more because I was really
It
like,
does.
how did
You're
a
like, how did a woman do this?
create such a male-centered vision of this iconic woman? And that's what it is. It's like we're gonna tell a story, but we're gonna focus on how the guys feel about it. Like it, I don't.
Yeah.
It was.
Which is how the majority of films
There
are
are more scenes with Ed Harris hanging out with his buddies who are just random losers in the town. There are no scenes
They
of
could
her
have had
like
Patsy hanging out
backstage
with Loretta and shit.
or any of
Like,
those, you know. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
any woman
okay.
country
Well,
singer
the fact that a
she
man directed it makes it make a lot more sense. I thought a woman directed it, and that I was really
was a huge disappointment.
trying to reconcile that, but that makes a lot more
Mhm.
sense. It's a garbage movie. It sucks. Don't watch it.
Yeah,
But listen to Patsy Cline.
agreed. This episode was so fucking fun for me. So fun to do. And my Patsy obsession is just lifelong and will continue forever because I even have clothing with Walkin' After Midnight embroidered on it, like multiple outfits. I have like 2 or 3 suits, maybe 5 suits with that embroidered on it. And I have like a few dresses as well. One of my favorite fashion designers is a Patsy fan, obviously, as well. So
Well, I have since bought a album, like a vinyl box set of all of her Decca recordings, like everything she ever
oh,
did for
nice.
Decca. It's like 3.5 hours long. It's almost everything
That's fucking sick.
except for some of the stuff from the 50s. But yeah, it's great. Patsy's albums are really easy to come by here. And so anytime I come across a compilation or even a CD set or something that I don't own, I've picked up a bunch of Patsy stuff recently to continue listening to because it is easy to listen to for sure. And then also I was in Nashville a while back and I went to the Johnny Cash Museum there because I was like, whatever, you know, when in Rome. And I walked into the building and saw that the Patsy Cline Museum is the upstairs of the same building. And, you know, due to time and all that, I didn't go to that one, but I kind of wish I would have known ahead of time because I
What?
probably would have gone based on this to the Patsy Cline Museum instead of the Johnny Cash one.
I'm sad that you didn't go.
But they had a ton of her outfits and like a bunch of. I saw the ring. They had the ring that we talked about the ring that she gifted that guy for writing
Yeah.
the song for her. They had that ring in one of the exhibits there. Like, so it was really cool
He gave it
to
up, huh?
to actually go see some of the physical history of Patsy as well in the mecca of country music.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
So that was really fun.
Oh, and she just came out with what was it that they just came out with?
Oh yeah,
Some
they
lost
did.
recordings?
Yeah, lost recordings from the 50s and 60s. It's a lot of like live versions or demo versions of songs, but they still sound great. I'm not crazy about alternate takes on a lot of stuff, or if even live stuff. I'm not. I don't know. I kind of like it to be true to the original, but all of these felt like they were well developed enough to stand on their own, and they are interesting versions of some of her more well-known songs. So
I feel
worth
like
checking
everything
out.
out of her mouth is solid gold, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, we talked about like how she did
She
a
would want to do a
million
bunch of
takes and
takes.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so I'm sure
totally.
this is just
And
some of that
everyone was like,
stuff.
"You got it right the first time."
Yeah, like we could have used any of these, and so I'm sure these are
Yeah,
probably some of those takes.
it would be really interesting to hear her like sing things in a slightly different like cadence or whatever, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like how you do different takes and do it in a sort of different way each time or whatever. That would be interesting.
The version of Crazy that's on there is a lot more like R&B piano version versus the like strings and
Interesting.
country and western version that is more common. So it's the same song, but it's kind of a different style or different vibe. And I think you can kind of hear them trying to work through like what her style was going to be and what.
Oh yeah, yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, so it's worth checking out for sure.
I didn't even realize that that had come out, so I'm super excited to listen to it
Well, and all of her
because
music
she's
is so
someone that I
much
can
like
listen to over and over.
it's all been packaged and put on compilations, and there's so many different versions. So when you go through and listen to everything, you're getting a lot of repeats, and I think this is repeats of the songs, but at least different versions of the songs, so you can get a little bit more. What's the word?
Variety.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yay, Patsy Cline. Someone that everyone would love, I think.
Much like our Wheel of Death, I think that might actually fit into a similar vein. I wanted to keep it
That
in
doesn't sound very
a
deathy, but now I'm scared.
I wanted to keep it in a genre because I don't think we have a lot of country Wheel of Death, and
Oh
there
God.
are a trillion artists to choose from. Okay, I do want to go with someone who is undeniably popular just based on where they came from and kind of how they reached stardom. So our Wheel of Death entry for this is going to be Carrie Underwood.
Oh, great. See, I thought you were gonna go like male because of all the misogyny in the fucking movie and all that.
No, I never want to think about that movie again.
Yeah, but also she was like a feminist icon and like, kind of stood up against men.
Yeah, I just wanted to take it more into the pop country realm of like I think that she
Mhm.
pioneered that as a genre, and this and like the Carrie Underwood idea is the pinnacle of that, I feel like, of like pop versus country
That makes
crossover.
total sense. And like I don't see her as pop, but I totally get what you're saying. But it's funny though because when people have asked me in the past or whatever if I like country, usually I say I like old school country, and when
Hmm.
I say that I mean Patsy Cline. Um and I don't like the new poppy country shit. Like the shit that happened in the 90s was when country started going really poppy to me, and that's when I really started not liking it.
Yeah. And she's a little bit later than that. I think she, came on the scene in 2005.
Well,
But
yeah, she was after it, kind of like you said, like the fully formed idea of that. Yeah.
yeah, I did look, there is a Christmas album in there too. So the
Ugh,
probability of adding a Christmas album to our Wheel of Death
it just keeps
experiences,
getting
yeah,
higher.
keeps rising.
God
So
damn it.
so yeah, Carrie Underwood. I think we'll have some to learn, and this
It
this
might
was
not
this
be
was
the
the
worst.
idea. So
Yeah, it's definitely not something I would listen to,
yeah,
that's for
so
sure.
there you go.
Good one.
Who's up next? What do you got next?
Okay, up next, we have another contralto. We're gonna do Tracy Chapman.
Oh, Tracy Chapman. Okay, that is an artist I do not have a lot of familiarity with.
Okay, well, Patsy is somebody that I karaoke a lot, and I also karaoke Tracy a lot, so
Okay, so is that what you're basing your choices on from now
I
on?
don't know. I'm not really sure.
Cool. Yeah, I look forward to listening to that and learning a lot more about them.
She's just another like super iconic one of those that really stands out from my childhood. So I just wanted to do a little revisit and learn and listen to what I haven't heard yet because I had only heard a few albums from my childhood. So
Cool. Okay, yeah, that'll be fun. Looking forward to it. All right, well, that wraps up this episode. If you enjoy what we're doing here, please look us up on social media at Retrospectrum Pod.
and subscribe to our Patreon at Retrospectrum Pod.
Join the discussion on our Discord and listen to our exclusive playlists.
I put a lot of effort into making these playlists, so I hope you all enjoy.
So we'll start listening to Tracy Chapman and see you back here, same time, same place.
Bye.